Welcome, everybody out there listening on KFWB News Talk 980, our flagship station in Los Angeles, or everybody out there listening on XM Channel 165 or at the World Wide Web at KLEANRadio.com. Welcome, everybody. We have a guest hosting tonight, unless Andrew has lost a lot of weight and has changed sexes, but we have Elisa Hallerman joining me tonight.
Thank you for having me back.
You got it. You were an amazing guest last week. Elisa Hallerman is from the owner of HalleyLife.com. And an amazing thing, actually, you do.
Thank you, Judah.
And you came in last week. You were a guest. And after the show, we were actually, we were just, talking and having fun. And one of the things you had offered was that was something the show is sponsored by treatmentline.com, but one of the things we do at KLEAN is we've been, for the next year, since September, we're giving away a bet a month for National Recovery Month we started, and we're going to be going through next September and probably after. And that's, you don't need to be included in that part, but yeah, no, I'm joking. But you've offered to give for everybody we sponsor. You've offered to give your services,
consulting services.
Yeah.
Yes, I thought it was amazing that you guys are doing that, and so I wanted to give back and help in some way. And so I think it's important to help the families as well as the individual. So if they want consulting help for how they're going to stay on their feet after you've given them that incredible gift so that they can maintain their sobriety, Halley Life will help them do that.
And that's awesome. And one of the callers last week, who's been a constant caller of ours, who, was sharing that he set his alarm clock to the show last week and 8 days sober, Patrick, you guys have been in contact and you guys have been talking.
Yeah, so Patrick emailed me on Facebook and we were talking back and forth, and we talked about his plan for the next day, and I'm really hoping that he calls in tonight so we can see how he's been doing. But I gave him some tools and looking forward to continuing.
And let's see if he actually set his alarm clock.
I have hope.
No, I have hope in Patrick too. And, to anybody out there that's listening, that's struggling, it's really cool what a lot of callers have been doing. A lot of callers have been calling us in. Even we're not this judgmental show. We're not judgmental. We're these people that we understand that everybody doesn't get sober right away.
And also, I think sobriety looks different for everybody.
Yes.
And I think there was a caller last week who had a really good point about counting days and counting time,
right,
and that all we ever really have is today.
Yes.
So I think at any moment, anyone can start over again.
That's exactly right. And, give us a call. Give us your day count. But we're also a show about, the hope in sobriety. Mm-hmm. And because if there's no hope, really sometimes what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
And yesterday, I volunteer every Saturday. I take a lot of the clients we have over at KLEAN, and I take them on this thing called Sober Fun. And they wanted me yesterday to take them to pick pumpkins. And I've never picked a pumpkin before. I had to buy carvers that weren't made of metal. I have no idea what I'm doing. So I run to CVS first, and I pick up this pumpkin carving kit,
right,
like 9 of them,
right,
and I Google like pumpkin patches in LA,
right,
and I'm actually going to give them a shout out, and because they were awesome to us. And it's a place I picked out. It was like the 7th on Google. It's a place called Sean's Pumpkin Patch, and it's in Culver City. They have a few of them, and we get to this place, and it's like a kid place, it's like just tons of children just running around hay fields and all that. And I'm like saying to myself, oh God.
Did they have like horseback riding?
No, but they had like pony rides, and they had face paint.
I mean.
Yeah, they had pony rides, and they had fun games and all that stuff,
right,
and face painting.
Did you get your face painted?
No, I didn't, and because I'm too cool for that.
Yeah.
And so one of the girls that's goes to me, she goes, "Hey Judah, I gotta admit this is fun," and I was like, it made my day.
Of course.
And no matter what else happened that day, that made my day. That this girl that has had a really rough time in many ways looked at me and said, "This pumpkin patch is fun," and I was like, I really wish I knew this go. But I think sometimes in life, that's like the most fun to have is you pick a point and you go. You pick a place and go.
I think it's really more about being present in what it
Right.
is that we're doing.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the times, I know for me, when I was not sober, I had this image of what I thought was fun.
Right.
But if you stuck me in those circumstances now, clear, I would look around and go, this isn't fun at all.
Right.
And it's really about finding out what is fun, and you might go do something like go to a pumpkin patch and love it. You might hate it, but at least you're trying different experiences and then, realizing what's fun for you.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's, and one of the greatest gifts. We both got sober young. I know you got sober really young.
No.
No.
I was 33 when I got sober.
Oh, I thought you were sober.
I mean, I look like I'm still 33. Let's not kid ourselves.
You look like you're 25.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that.
I got sober 10 years ago and kind of yesterday all at the same time.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. And I'm not saying that to, it's something preserved very well. You see, that's the thing. You
sobriety.
Get sober. People out there, get sober, and you could look as good as Elisa Hallerman. And, before we bring in our guest, I want to say, I saw this commercial on TV, and it just drives me crazy about this fat belt that, you put it on for 10 minutes, and it burns off the fat.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
And then I saw something else later as I'm driving here. I saw this thing that you could freeze the fat. And to people out there, this is these quick fixes out there to healthy and get better your life. We're so into this quick fix but you're not really dealing with the problem.
Well, I can't speak to the people that are freezing their fat. I'm not an expert in that area.
I know you're not.
But I will say this. No, there are no quick fixes.
Right.
And it's usually about the underlying issue.
Yes.
Whether it's about eating, sobriety, alcohol, drugs, gambling.
Yes.
Sex.
All of them. And coming in right now into the studio, we have an awesome guest off the plane from Ecuador right now, Zoe Tron.
Tryon.
Okay, I'm horrible sometimes with names, and I'm sorry.
Let me introduce her.
Yes.
Zoe,
do you get the point of the music before? It's about me. I'm in the studio with absolutely these beautiful women, and our publicist Taryn. It's like, how lucky can one guy be? Look at me.
Yeah, we got Frank playing.
Hey, we got Frank. Or is it Dean Martin? It's Dean Martin.
It's Dean Martin.
Yes. Anyways, welcome to the studio, Zoe.
Thank you very much.
So Zoe is one of my best friends, and most of the time lives in Ecuador. But she has an incredible story. She's an anthropologist, and she works with the indigenous culture in Ecuador and works in the Amazon. And I just think she's such an inspiration for me. And I thought that having her on to talk about not only her life, but her sobriety and how she's done it and her experience could benefit so many people and be so fascinating at the same time.
Crikey. Well, I shall try.
Yes.
Thank you for having me here, Bill.
Thank you for coming. And by the way, if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEANradio.com. You're listening to KLEAN Radio. And the number here is 888-539-2980. That's 888-539-2980. We're in the studio tonight with Zoe Tryon and my co-host, du jour, Elisa Hallerman from Halle Life. And I'll let you go because your guys are friends. You know a lot about Zoe, but a lot of people out there don't know.
All right, well, Zoe, why don't you tell us a little bit about... Actually, we were talking before you walked in here about getting sober really young, and I was saying I didn't, but I know that you did. So can you talk a little bit about what that was like at that age, getting sober, and what sort of happened for you, and how hard it was maybe to maintain it, especially in those early years?
Definitely. It was. I got sober at 21, and I got sober in England.
Wow.
And in England, when I came in, there weren't people of 21 in the rooms. And it was really challenging. I didn't know anyone who was clean or sober in my social group. I didn't know it was possible. And my mother actually was on the phone to NA a lot. And
Narcotics Anonymous, to people out there.
And she dragged me off to a meeting and sat there behind me because they'd moved the meeting room and it was a really little tiny room and we were all sitting on the floor in chairs and she kept poking me in the back to try and make me share and I hated it. And at the end of the meeting, I said to someone, I just want to learn to cut down. And of course they said, keep coming back, coming back. I'm like, I'm fine. I just
with that big smile.
Yeah, and I was like, and I didn't trust them. They all looked too smiley and sort of shiny for me. And I said, but you don't do anything, like nothing at all. And I couldn't sort of get my head around doing absolutely nothing. and I went out and did some more research, and then I actually went through the rehab route.
That's what we say when we go out and are not quite ready to get sober.
I wasn't ready. I had to.
Did you go to the Prairie? Is that how you pronounce it?
The Priory.
The Priory.
No, I went to a place called Farm Place.
Okay.
And it was actually quite amusing when I got there. I'd been out on another very long bender and come back home to try and get some money from my mother. And she locked me in my bedroom, which was fine because I was wasted and passed out. And then hired I don't know where she got him from, a big bloke to come pick me up the next morning, and they dragged me off to rehab. But my mother stopped off on the way to have a few little quiet vodka and tonics at the local pub before we actually went into the rehab. And then I was amazed that they kept me in there and they let her go. So I was in there for about 9 months. I went in for a week.
Right.
And for me, that's what I needed because I was so young and I had no idea about how to live at all, clean and sober. And so it was very challenging. And I remember when I was about 2 years sober in Australia at that point, and this guy from LA came over, and he was 19 years old and he had 5 years of recovery. And I was just like, wow, America's so cool.
And we're really lucky in LA. I mean, I don't think people realize that enough, how lucky we are in Los Angeles, New York, that the 12 steps are so accepted.
Totally. I mean, I was at meetings with, 60-year-old great big fat men drinking lots of coffee and cigarettes and bowls of candy on the table. It was like, as long as you don't pick up a drink, it's fine.
Right.
Just eat lots of sugar.
But it's amazing because that's what I needed too, because I was in Brooklyn and I didn't know young people existed until I had a year sober. Because I got sober in Brooklyn at a place called Bensonhurst. And there weren't
That's where
a lot
my dad's from.
Yeah. That's symmetry.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, if you just tuned in, you're listening to KLEANRadio.com. The calls are starting to line up. We're in the studio tonight with Zoe Tryon, and Elisa Hallerman is my co-host. Did I say the name correctly?
Perfectly.
Yes.
Like try on a pair of socks.
Try on a pair of socks. And and you spell your name actually as Z-O, 2 dots on top of the E. How do you find that on the computer? Is there like a 2-dot
there
thing?
There is.
Okay.
It's tricksy.
Because I was looking for the 2-dot thing, and because I wanted to give,
Yeah.
And okay,
She
let's.
also has a title.
Oh, thanks, Lise.
Well, you do.
And
Yes.
you're an anthropologist. We're going to get to that in a second. I learned the difference between an anthropologist and an archaeologist before the show. That's all because I asked. Let's welcome Elizabeth from New York. Elizabeth, welcome to KLEAN Radio.
Hey.
Hey.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
What can we do?
Yeah, so I called a couple of weekends ago talking about, having to let your employer know.
Yes, about the
if you're
EAP.
going for treatment.
Right. Elizabeth called.
Right.
Let me just, it was a great call, actually. Elizabeth didn't, it works at a place. She didn't know whether they had an EAP program, which, to people out there that are listening, it's an employee assistance program. And did you actually ever make the call?
I didn't make the call, but I've been active in trying to find treatment.
Okay.
And I feel like my problem is a lot of the treatment places don't cover all of the costs. And then I try and go through non-insurance, like the meeting route, and I feel like that doesn't work for me either. So I feel like I don't know if there's any in-between type of thing I can get a hold of, but the meetings don't work and treatment is too expensive.
Well, you actually called on the perfect night because we have Elisa in the studio who's actually sort of in the middle, I would say, right? You don't have a treatment center, but you deal with people like Elizabeth.
Yeah. Well, Elizabeth, where are you calling from?
New York.
New York?
Yeah.
And when you say the meetings don't work for you, what do you mean exactly?
It's just the type of people who are there are very intimidating and scary, and I just don't connect with them at all.
Right. And how many meetings have you gone to?
I've tried it out for maybe 10 or so.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, but here's a question, and I say totally. But let me ask you a question: What type of drugs are you addicted to?
I mean, I would say mostly alcohol.